So, welcome to my tiny estate. The first cottage here is the Caretaker's cottage. It is the oldest cottage that we've got. It dates back to 17th century. Just the front section, the back section was added on in the 18th century.
It's the first cottage that we ever completed, and it's what informed all the rest of the spaces. We took what we liked from here and moved it on to the next part, and we left what we didn't like. And I think that's how all our cottages have got better and better, we feel, over time.
So we're standing in the Caretaker's courtyard. It was quite overgrown when we got it. You can see the blue bricks. These are all the original bricks we found as we started taking up all the overgrowth section. What we believe from all the research we've done, the 17th century cottage that would have been here sat on its own, on its lonesome. It was just a small cottage. By the 18th century, the family came along, constructed all these buildings and merged them into one, and then consumed this Caretaker's cottage into all the servants' accommodation. On the sales particulars, this is the one that they said that it was in a habitable condition. I'm not really sure it was, but we made it into it, and this is the first one we worked on. In this courtyard contains everything that this cottage needs. So it had an outdoor privy here.
We did a little bit of work on it to make it look pretty. It was just with the scraps of the stuff we had going around.
This is one of the cutest buildings on the estate. We love it, and it has a great view from the Caretaker's kitchen, so it's like a lovely sort of picture moment. And then down the end here would have been the storage for the coal, very close to the entrance, and that's where they would have stored everything to heat the houses. So to get into the Caretaker's cottage, it's through here. It's actually a passageway all the way to the front of the house, and we have a door on the front as well. You drive in your car, you park in here, and you walk through this way. I thought I would show you inside what we've done and how it's changed over time, and a little bit of the history of this building.
So welcome to the Caretaker's cottage. We're going to take you through the back way because this is you coming from the courtyard. But if you go through this door, this is the entrance from the front. So shall I show you this first? So this is the corridor that takes you all the way through. Now this is the front door that's on the main high street, but most people come through the back because they've parked their car in the courtyard. No one ever sees it, but we spent so much time making this paneling perfect. I don't think anyone's hung any hooks on it here either, but it looks smart, and we've kept all the original bricks as well. And then this is the entrance hall. It's a bit quirky because you wouldn't normally have this sort of layout in an old cottage. I think it's just the evolution of how the house has developed over time, because this house has been the most lived in house of all of them. It was last lived in around 2005, so it has been hacked about a little bit. Inside here, we've got a very, very small little guest toilet. It would have been an old coal store because this would have been the back of the house. This is the one down house that it would have been in the 17th century, and then they added all this on in the 18th century. The house is split into two parts. So we've got the original sitting area at the front and then the kitchen at the back. We'll go through to the sitting area first. So you can tell this is the oldest part of the house. It's got the lower ceiling, got the original beam, and this would have been an inglenook fire where people would have sat and got warm, and it goes much, much deeper than this. But over time, it's been bricked in and made smaller and smaller. When we got the place, all of this was painted all the same color as the walls, and this was a different color. So what we did was we put a timber detail on here, and then we painted this all the same color. So it looks like a very big fire, when in fact, it's actually only that big. We were really wanting to open it all up and see what was behind it, but renovating this house, we were on such a tight time limit that we just couldn't possibly open up another can of worms. So we introduced this paneling that wraps all the way around. Behind Borgia there is the consumer unit, which we've managed to hide behind the paneling, which is great. In this house, we've put all cast iron radiators in here. We've got a new wooden floor down here, but most of the other floors have stayed exactly as they are. This is a lovely, cozy room, especially when you can get the fire on, which The fire in here and one of the bedrooms still fully functions. This is the only house that has one fire that doesn't work anymore. These, we found them in the hayloft and we've just made them into little side tables, but it's cute that even these little details have stayed within the house. These are tea chests. So it's what they would have brought from India, full of tea to England. Pictures, we found these old Polaroids when we were sorting out things on the estate. We don't know who they are, but they're now becoming a memory of the caretakers. We've framed them in these frames we found as well. And these are from around, we think around the 1960s. We don't know who the family is. But we've dressed them in here like they're the original caretakers of the cottage, but we honestly don't know who they are, where they come from, or if they ever lived here, but we thought they were quite little cute sort of displays. This is the lowest ceiling. All the other ceilings are much, much higher, but I think it just works in this space. It makes it feel a little bit cozier. We created a kind of sitting area that kind of all went round, so it's very social when you're with friends and family, but then also you've got the standard TV, the big ass TV that no one wants to see, but it has to be done. We lived in here for about a year before we started renting it out, and it is such a lovely house to live in. Yeah. I think it's probably up there as one of my favorites on the estate. Because it's very traditional. You've got your living kitchen downstairs, your bedrooms upstairs. And I've always grown up with that, and I like that setup. This was the first cottage that we actually did. So we were testing out things. This was the first time we attempted doing paneling. This is the only cottage that has got different skirting board because we were still working out what style worked, still getting our feet when it comes to colors and what colors we use in different spaces. But this, I do love this color. The crazy thing is we did this 5 years ago and I do still love all the things we've picked for these spaces. Shall we go through to the kitchen? Interestingly, the doors are very low, even though the ceilings are quite high in these spaces. So this is our lovely kitchen for the caretakers. It's the one we get asked most about. It's very simple. It's just an off-the-shelf kitchen, and we've literally just done MDF doors, and we didn't even add details to this, and we just added a router detail to the top here. Our focus for this kitchen was always going to be the windows. This view out is so beautiful, looking towards the little outbuilding, which is the old laundry. And we always wanted to create like a seat here that you can sit down, look out. And also it's more of a social space, so you can, I could sit here while someone's cooking and whatnot. When we first got the place, there was a sink here, which was about that high and cut off half the window, which was such a shame. We did have a cushion on here instead of quartz, but the cushion over time when people were sitting on it started changing shape. It just wasn't the best. So we wanted something that was much more hard wearing. So we thought just have a piece of quartz, easy to clean, easy to maintain, have a few cushions on there and it'll work quite well. Little Rexy here. So Rex, the old stove, wasn't actually in this cottage. We found him in the stables and we knew he would work perfectly here. With great strength, because it was so heavy, we brought him over and it's just such a lovely feature. We try and maximize on the surface area we've got for prepping and cooking and whatnot. In terms of equipment, microwave is hidden in the cupboard. We've got an oven, we've got a dishwasher and a fridge freezer here. So we've got all the things that we need. We've also got the boiler, which heats the entire house, as well as providing the hot water, hidden in this cupboard. We don't like any boxing in. So this is the only boxing in we've got, which hides the waste pipe that goes up to the bathroom. But even then, you wouldn't think it's boxing in. You'd just think it's part of the wall detail. We designed it perfectly, so it creates a lovely bookend for this panel detail that we did here. And the paneling was all designed around this window, which this is an original window that looks into the landing. Very curious, but I think it's just how the house has evolved. It really kind of frames the panel detail that we've done here. So we've really tried to minimize on the materials we've used in here with the colors. So it's just greens, whites, and then a lovely terracotta floor, which this is the original terracotta floor that continues from here into the hall and continues into the servants' kitchens. It's exactly the same tiling, installed at exactly the same time. This one's probably just been maintained a little bit better. So we went a bit crazy for us, and we went for this brass splashback, and we absolutely loved the idea of it. It really ties in all the natural materials that we use across the cottages, but big downside of it is it doesn't wear very well. It stains quite a lot with splashes from the hob and whatnot, and you cannot for the life of you get it out unless you clean up all the brass and you start again. But this has been an aged brass, so if we cleaned it up, it would be, you know, a very shiny brass again. So it's a little bit of a nightmare. So that's probably one thing we would change if we were to do it again. Oh, quickly, the birdie's sticking out of the cuckoo clock. Oh my god, I've tried to get that recording so many times and missed it. It does make a noise, but we had to switch it off because people staying here, I don't think they'll want to be annoyed every hour with a cuckoo. We don't tend to go for modern things on the walls, it's traditional stuff, but we kind of really love that. What I also love about this space is the ledge that we've got up here, which you can add details to. This is what we've decorated the space with the stuff that goes on top of the paneling, which is really nice. And I don't know if you've spotted, but what we do with most of the spaces is we go for brass sockets and switches. And then where we've got paneling, we introduce paintable sockets here so they blend in a little bit more. You paint the kind of paper that goes behind it, but you can also put wallpaper, so you can blend it into wallpaper. And you'll see in the servants' cottage that we've done that with the wallpaper we've got in there. We sourced this old lamp from a reclamation yard, and Borja found this table, which, to be honest, I still don't love it. It's a new table that's made to look old. Yeah, it works, but I mean, if I was being really fussy. This is quite special. So this is the letter that we found under the floorboards in the servants' cottage. It dates back to 1873. We thought it would be a really nice idea for when guests come to stay that they could have a read of what the letter says and what we found. It's just a copy. It's not the original. We've still got the original, but we thought it was quite like a modern touch to have it in a big frame as a detail on a wall. Interestingly, behind this wall here is the gym. We always considered whether we'd knock through there and have that as like a separate dining room. But yeah, I'll show you that at another point. This, we believe, was always a kitchen. It was just a separate entity to the servant section. It's hard to work out how it's evolved over time, but from what we believe, this was always a kitchen. The other space was always a living room. The windows are quite strange up there. It's a high level window that looks into the servants' courtyard. It just brings in a lovely southerly light. Then I guess you want to see what's behind this door. So behind this door, this was an add-on. And it was a pantry when we got the place. Very damp, very moldy. And now we have got it as a little laundry. And by little, I mean little. Underneath here, we've got a built-in washer dryer and a bit of storage space. What we did was just got off the shelf cupboards and made sure that it added up to the right size to fit that washing machine below. And then this is a lovely butler sink we sourced, and we made these taps ourselves and spray painted them a brass look. A butler sink is a sink that is quite shallow in depth, whilst a Belfast sink is much deeper. I mean, we've only learnt these things as we've kind of gone along. It's such a cute window that overlooks the courtyard, and these are camellias, so when the flowers come out, the pretty white flowers looking through the window. And this was our first injection of quite a modern colour, but it still works. You can see the outlines of where there was a door originally, because this was an add-on to the house, and this would have been the laundry through there, and there would have been a door going through. So yes, that's the downstairs of the caretaker's cottage. We've got living room, kitchen, laundry, and a toilet, and then the corridor that leads to the main street. And then let's go upstairs and I'll show you the layout up there. The stairs are very steep, very quirky, so we have to warn people when they come to stay here. The lights are on a motion sensor, so when you come in, at least you're not being greeted in the dark. So you've got a light that comes on straight away. I love them, Borja hates them. And this is the window I said from the kitchen. So as I'm walking up the stairs or down the stairs, someone in the kitchen can see me. This window actually was the reason why we installed a window in the hayloft where we did. It was a bit of inspiration of how we could borrow light from a different space, but also a view through, as you're going up the stairs, which is lovely. As we go up the stairs, to your right is the exposed timber frame of the back of what would have been the back of the caretaker's cottage when it was just a little one up, one down house. So as you go up, I don't know if you can see out the window with the light, but that roof is the servants' cottage. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the back. So this is the back of the caretaker's cottage, and this is the back bedroom. This is a really special one because it has such an amazing view onto the servants' courtyard. It's just green at the moment, full of green. We've got the flowers potentially coming out on the Portuguese laurel. It's a lovely, lovely view, and it's one of our favourite bedrooms on the estate. We slept in this room, even though it's the smaller of the two rooms. This, I think, more people should make these nowadays. It's such a simple setup. It literally is a frame with a pretty door and just some architrave going around, which we added this architrave because it had something missing, and it doesn't even have a back in. So the back is just the paneling we put on the wall at the back, and yeah, it works really well. It's just a little mini storage wardrobe. And then obviously we've got some nice suitcases at the top. They used to be my family suitcases, but then we started renting out the cottage. I felt a bit weird having the family suitcases in there. I don't know why. It's just a bit of sentimentality, so we saw some more. We always make sure to install more traditional things on the walls to mix that modern and traditional together. When we were starting doing these bedrooms, we wanted to find the cheapest way of making side tables, and this was before we cut our side tables in half, where we came up with our epiphany. This was just railway sleepers that we sanded and buffed up and made into side tables. When guests come to stay, we've got a cable so that anyone can charge their phone, because that's the worst thing if you don't have facilities to charge your phone. We went for a very different detail when it came to the paneling on the back. We were still juggling with our ideas of how much modern stuff we can put into an old building. So the Caretakers was slightly a little bit more modern in our approach. So we went for a much bigger spacing between them. These were made with big MDF boards. So the joins are hidden in the grooves so that no one notices where they actually go together. And you know what? This has never cracked, whilst the servants' cottage, which is made up of original tongue and groove boards, every one cracks constantly. It's an absolute nightmare. So inside here, which was once a storeroom, is now a little mini ensuite. Everything that you really need: a little toilet, sink, shower, and this was our first introduction of using marble tiles in the shower area. Now, we don't like too much tiling. It can feel quite cold, so we actually just put tiling in the shower area, and then we did a grid pattern in here. And I think that as our style evolved, we learned that actually a brick bond works a little bit better, similar to the brick bond we did on the floor. But Borja decided he didn't want to use slate anymore, so this is the last time we've ever used slate. He also doesn't like the sinks either because they're really hard to keep clean and whatnot, so we never do top-mounted sinks anymore either. Yeah. So you just learn as you go along. What we've also found is with the artwork, and when it comes to old artwork, it's really hard to match the frames or get a similar style. So when we can't find any more artwork, we source other things to hang, like an old bedpan. So the bedpan was to heat the bed. I'd put hot coals in here. I think I put a note in here, didn't I? Oh no, I didn't. I was going to put a note in here to say, if you read this note, you're being way too nosy. So they'll put the hot coal in here and then they'll put it under the bed and then it will warm up the bed for them. I mean, how dangerous is that? Hot coals. We were originally going to have like a shade on here and then put a bulb. So we ordered these bulbs and I thought, oh, these bulbs are quite expensive. But we ordered them anyway. And when they came, we were like, oh my God, these are absolutely huge. We don't need to buy any shades anymore because they act for it. So they're cute little details. Again, it's us playing with modern and traditional, and you'll find that the next spaces that we have done have a much more traditional vibe. This is our evolution of our style. So this is the landing area. We're so lucky that we've got so much natural light in here because this was an old roof light we just switched out, and it's quite an impressive view down. You don't often get like a vaulted space in a cottage. This was the first table that we ever did cut because it was rotten. The middle bit had cracked and we were like, what are we gonna do? Because this is a beautiful table. So we cut it into 2/3 to 1/3. But the idea of cutting a table in half came from Borgia's family, whereby his mum and his auntie had a table that they both loved and they couldn't agree who would have it. So they decided to cut it in half and both have half each. And I thought it was a hilarious story, but also such a smart idea. I think this is beautiful because it's got character and age and it's got a little bit of a story with all its cut marks and whatnot in it. I don't know, it's beautiful to me. Obviously, it changes the use of a table, but if you have a table leaning or fixed against a wall, why do you need the other two legs? You don't. So it worked perfect. The little hatch above here goes into the attic space. So you can see the ceiling's much lower below. So you can go up into the attic and then you can go up again into this space above. You'll see also in the Caretakers that the levels are all different. There was steps up into that room, steps down to that, and that's just because of the ceiling level changes and how they've extended it over time. So we go down into this space, and this is the front bedroom, the biggest bedroom. I mean, it's such a spacious room. This fire doesn't work anymore. We don't know when, but the chimney breast above on the roof was removed at some point. And what we did was we built in some wardrobes into the sides here and a cupboard there with a TV, obviously. So we've got a seating area. We created a dressing area. The floors are very quirky in here. So quirky that we had to have the bed legs cut. It's just so uneven in here. There's a particular dip going down to there. It is what it is with these houses. You know, the windows are what they are. The layer is what it is. For example, the stairs split it naturally. So we just worked with the layer as much as possible and it works really well. I probably wouldn't do a fabric headboard again, only because the maintenance is a bit of a nightmare. This section here we thought was a beam that they'd plastered over, only to uncover it to find it's a big steel beam that runs all the way through. So we had to cover it back over again. These glass lamps were actually from the servants' cottage. They were actually just fixed to the ceiling like that, and they were covered in dust. And I thought, well, actually they would work quite nicely as something. So we made them into side lamps. Luckily we had two. And then through to this, which was again another storage space. We introduced bathrooms into this place. Originally we'd have to go through to the servants' cottage to go to the bathroom. So we've introduced new modern bathrooms into here. This one's slightly larger, so we could introduce a bath. What we wanted ideally was a freestanding bath, but we couldn't. So we created a quirky detail. We've got legs on it, so it looks like it's freestanding, but it's actually just a black board under there. This was kind of taken from our old house because we had a very modern previous house, so we've kind of gone more modern here to find that we've changed really over time. The things I would probably change is I do love our architrave details that we've got in the other spaces. They're much more subtle. Oh yes, we went for cheap taps. And they're not the best. No. I mean, the sink ones are okay. It's just the shower valves, you know, you really pay for what you get. And we went cheap and we got cheap. So this was the tour of the Caretaker's cottage. If you want to see any more tours or you want to see the rest of the estate, just click the subscribe button or the alerts or whatever you do that, and you'll get notified when we're doing the next tour.
Which you have a say in. Be sure to check out our community tab and cast your vote for the tour that you would like to see next.